Most people live as if death politely announces its arrival. But it doesn't. It doesn't knock. It storms in. One moment, you're scrolling through your phone with a warm cup of coffee, and the next moment, silence. No soundtrack, no warning. What if your body was already whispering its goodbye, but you were too distracted to hear it? Death isn't theatrical. It's quiet, sudden, real. It doesn't give you a countdown or a chance to rehearse your final lines. And yet, while death may be silent, your body, your most faithful companion, often speaks first. In subtle signs, it tries to prepare you, not to scare you, but to shift your focus, to help you reclaim the moments that still belong to you. In this video, we aren't here to fear death. We're here to face it with clarity, with calm, with truth. These 5 clinical, observable signs might be the way your body says the end is near. And if we learn to notice, we might just live better too. So, stay with me. Let's start this journey, not into darkness, but into awareness. Sign 1. Significant changes in sleep patterns. The first sign isn't dramatic. It doesn't come with pain, panic, or sirens. It comes with silence. Sleep, something we often ignore, delay, or take for granted, begins to change. And when it does, it's not just about aging or stress. It can be a profound signal. For some, it begins with an unusual heaviness. You sleep for 14 hours, and still it feels like you haven't slept at all. Or the reverse. Your eyes burn with exhaustion, but sleep never comes. You lay there hour after hour, not restless exactly, but not at peace either. People brush this off. It's just a phase. Too much coffee. Maybe I need a new pillow. But beneath these small excuses, something deeper may be unfolding. There's a term doctors use in palliative care, terminal sleep changes. It refers to the body's natural instinct to conserve energy, to prepare. Systems begin to slow. Unconsciously, the body knows. Take Harold, for example. A retired Navy officer, Harold was known for his discipline. Up at dawn, breakfast like clockwork, daily walks without fail. His routine was his identity, but then it began to crack. He started napping at odd times, missing visits, sleeping through things that once mattered. At first, his daughter thought it was just age. Then, strangely, Harold stopped sleeping altogether. He stayed up at night, walking the halls, gazing at the stars. When asked why, he simply said, "It's like my soul is stretching its legs before it leaves." 3 months later, Harold passed in his sleep, quietly, without illness, without pain. Sleep is sacred, and when it shifts dramatically, especially for no apparent reason, it's worth listening. Because often, it's not just rest, it's preparation. Next, we move from the stillness of sleep to another quiet but revealing signal, one that shows up in how we interact with the world around us and the people we love. In the previous section, we uncovered a subtle but profound sign. Changes in sleep patterns can often be the body's quiet announcement that life is preparing to wind down. It's not chaos, not noise. It's a soft dimming of the lights, a shift that invites us to look inward. Now, we move deeper into understanding how this shutdown unfolds, not just biologically, but spiritually, emotionally, and philosophically. When the body senses that its energy reserves are dwindling, it begins to conserve what little remains. The brain, ever wise, ever vigilant, initiates a shutdown of non-essential systems. Appetite diminishes, digestion slows, even the complex currents of emotion begin to level out, like a river drying at its edges. What's left is the bare essentials, the heart still beating, the lungs still breathing. The body clings to life, but gently, as though it too is preparing to let go. In this process, something fundamental begins to shift: the circadian rhythm. That inner metronome we all rely on, which quietly keeps time behind our routines, starts to falter. You might find yourself awake at 3 a.m., staring blankly at the ceiling, wondering why your mind feels so alert and your body so weary. And when the world is awake, you drift into sleep without notice, like a leaf spiraling toward still water. It's disorienting. It's subtle, but it is real. Often, the person experiencing it doesn't recognize what's happening. They may just feel tired, out of step, or off. But those closest to them begin to notice, Mom's been napping a lot lately. Dad skipped bowling again. These aren't just missed appointments. They're signs, gentle indicators that something is shifting beneath the surface. From a Stoic perspective, this isn't something to dread. It's a chance, perhaps one of the last, to reflect. Marcus Aurelius, that emperor-philosopher, wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This perspective doesn't promote fear, but clarity. It challenges us to wake up not in the morning, but to our priorities. To ask, have I lived with intention? Have I spoken the words I meant to say? Have I forgiven where I could? Released what no longer serves me? In the elderly especially, these shifts in sleep can provoke a silent kind of panic, not about death, but about being forgotten, about fading quietly while life carries on without notice. There's a deep, almost primal fear in wondering whether your life will be remembered as a complete story, or just fragments, half-remembered anecdotes, blurry pictures and albums that gather dust. If you felt this fear or seen it flicker in the eyes of someone you love, know that it is not weakness. It is humanity. And the remedy isn't sedation. It is conversation. It's awareness. It's the courage to face what is coming, not with clenched fists, but with open arms. Sleep, in this context, becomes a kind of rehearsal, not for death, but for peace. So if the sleep patterns of someone you love or your own begin to shift profoundly, don't rush to label it as insomnia. Don't smother it with medication without first seeking to understand it. These shifts are not threats. They're invitations to speak, to share, to settle the soul, to write a final chapter with intention rather than let it fade mid-sentence. The Stoics taught that the good life and the good death are not so far apart. Both require clarity, both demand reflection, and both begin by letting go of what we cannot control. Death is certain, but how we meet it, that is ours to decide. To sleep deeply, to rest without regret. That is the true art of dying well. In the next section, we will explore another unexpected sign, one that shows up not in how you sleep, but in what you eat, or no longer want to. Appetite changes, subtle at first but telling, are more than nutritional notes. They are messages, and we're going to decode them together. Sign 2, sudden and persistent weight loss. Following the subtle but powerful disruptions in sleep, the second unmistakable sign that the end may be approaching is often tragically misunderstood. Sudden, effortless weight loss. In a society obsessed with appearances, where weight loss is frequently seen as a badge of success, this shift can initially seem like a blessing in disguise. Compliments come fast. "You look amazing," or "What's your secret?" These remarks are given freely, ironically, at a time when the truth is far more serious. Especially in older adults or individuals already coping with illness, this kind of weight loss isn't a sign of restored vitality. It's a red flag. Medically, this is often a sign of cachexia, a condition drastically different from intentional weight loss. This isn't about cutting carbs or increasing cardio. This is about the body quietly winding down. In cachexia, the body stops prioritizing the digestive system, an energy-intensive system, and redirects those precious resources to essential operations like keeping the heart beating, the lungs filling with air, and the brain functioning at a baseline level. The rest? It begins to shut down. The process is systematic. The metabolism slows dramatically. The sensation of taste begins to shift. Favorite foods start to taste bitter, metallic, or lose all appeal. Even water can begin to taste wrong. Appetite fades, not from choice, but from chemical and physiological shutdown. Eating becomes more chore than pleasure. The food that once brought comfort becomes a burden. No matter how lovingly meals are prepared, they're left untouched. This is not temporary like a flu. This is progressive, consistent, and most painfully irreversible. What complicates it further is the occasional rebound. The dying person might suddenly crave a scoop of ice cream, a spoonful of soup. Families rejoice, thinking this is the return of strength. But these flickers are often misleading. They are not signs of healing, but rather fluctuations in a larger pattern of decline. Food isn't just fuel, it's culture, memory, identity. When the desire for it disappears, it's not just nourishment that's being lost. It's part of the human connection to joy, ritual, and life itself. And in that loss, there's fear, not just of death, but of becoming invisible, forgotten, irrelevant. But here's the Stoic truth. These signs are not shameful. They are sacred. As Epictetus taught, we cannot control what happens, only how we respond. This physical unraveling is not a failure. It is a phase of life just as meaningful as youth or strength. It asks us, what are we holding on to that we should release? Have we accepted what must pass? For those witnessing this in a loved one, the role is not to fix, but to sit in stillness with them, to be a presence of peace. And for those experiencing it, the question is not why me, but am I ready to make peace? Understanding weight loss as part of life's final preparation allows us to offer gentleness, dignity, and truth in place of panic. If someone you love is quietly fading, let your love speak not through force, but through calm. And if it is you walking this path, know that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to let go with grace. Let's continue to sign 3, the third, and perhaps most spiritual signal that life's final chapter is beginning to write itself. Sign 3, psychological withdrawal and mental detachment. The third sign that death may be approaching is not something you can measure with a thermometer or detect through a lab test. It is far more elusive, deeply psychological, and often even more painful for those witnessing it than for the one experiencing it. This is not a fever or a blood pressure reading. It's a transformation of the mind and spirit. This sign manifests as a sudden and profound shift in a person's awareness, values, and emotional attachment. It's not born from grief, nor is it necessarily the result of mental illness. It isn't dementia, and it certainly isn't mere confusion. Instead, this is nature's quiet way of loosening the emotional and psychological threads that tether us to the world. As the body prepares for its final descent, the mind begins to follow suit. And it does so in ways that are often deeply misunderstood. Friends and family watching this transition unfold can feel bewildered or even hurt by what they perceive. But it's not neglect or withdrawal in the emotional sense. It's a return inward. You may observe someone who used to care deeply about their daily routine suddenly growing indifferent. Bills go unpaid, plans fall through, old grudges are abandoned without ceremony, and conversations about the future are often met with only a quiet smile. The world shrinks for them. It becomes less urgent, less noisy, and far less worth clinging to. To outsiders, it may seem like they're giving up, but what's really happening is far more profound. The brain begins to rewire itself in this final phase. Neurological studies have shown that in many dying individuals, brain regions associated with fear, anxiety, and stress start to go dark. A kind of natural clarity emerges. Social obligations fade. Petty frustrations lose their power. Even regrets start to dissolve. It's as if the mind itself has begun to quiet the world in preparation for something deeper, something more eternal. This change can feel jarring to family members, but it's not apathy or depression. It's a gift, a final moment of peace. This transformation often explains why someone who was once staunchly rational or agnostic may begin speaking in more spiritual or poetic terms. They may recall old memories with stunning clarity, talk in riddles, or even engage with loved ones who have already passed. The boundary between life and death softens. Some experience what's known as terminal lucidity, a brief and seemingly miraculous return to clarity after weeks of confusion. Loved ones often interpret it as a sign of recovery, but in many cases, it's a final farewell cloaked in lucidity. The Stoics taught us not to fear death, but to prepare for it with courage and clarity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that we should live each day as if it were our last, not with dread, but with intention. In the final chapter of life, the mind naturally adopts this philosophy. It simplifies, it prioritizes, it lets go. This detachment isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's hardwired into the core of our being. And for the elderly, this process can be deeply unsettling. Not because they're confused, but because they feel unseen. Their silence is questioned. Their stillness is misunderstood. But the truth is, this detachment isn't rejection. It's preparation. They are not turning away from us. They are preparing to return to a deeper stillness. If you're seeing this transformation in someone you love, resist the urge to pull them back. Don't try to force conversation or demand they re-engage. Sit with them. Breathe with them. Witness the beauty in their quiet surrender. And if this shift is happening within you, know this: you are not alone. Others have walked this same path with grace. Your detachment is not a sign of vanishing. It is a sacred inward journey. You are not fading. You are arriving. If someone you know is navigating this silent change, send them this video. It might change the way they see everything. Sign 4. Circulatory and breathing changes. Here's something most people never realize until it's too late. In the final stretch of life, your body becomes ruthlessly efficient. It begins making executive decisions, deciding where energy goes and where it doesn't. When that happens, the signs don't hide in medical reports. They appear right in the mirror. You begin to see it in your skin, your hands, your breath. And these changes aren't subtle. They're signals so stark, so unmistakable, they can shake even the most stoic observer. Take the case of Elena, a retired librarian from Vermont, composed, graceful, dignified. She was the kind of woman who still ironed her blouses and wore lipstick to the grocery store. But in the final weeks of her life, Her physical presence changed. Her hands, once warm and agile, turned cold and slightly bluish. Her legs developed marbled web-like patterns under the skin, purple and ghost-like, like the veins of an old leaf. One night, her daughter noticed her breathing had shifted. Deep inhales followed by shallow exhales, then silence. 10 seconds, 15. Just when panic rose, another breath. This wasn't sleep apnea. It was something ancient, something final. What Elena was experiencing is well known in end-of-life medicine. It begins with the circulatory system. The body, sensing its resources are limited, starts conserving. Blood is redirected away from the extremities, hands, feet, fingers, toes, and preserved for the core. The goal: keep the brain, heart, and lungs alive just a little longer. Skin changes color, bluish purple or stark white. This is called mottling. It begins in the extremities and slowly creeps up. Hands and feet grow cold to the touch. Skin becomes waxy. Nail beds pale or translucent. Even if you never gave your fingernails a second thought in life, they become powerful signals near the end. Then comes the breathing, perhaps the most jarring transformation of all. Known as Cheney-Stokes respiration, it's a pattern where breaths deepen, then slow, then stop, before beginning again. It can be terrifying to witness. It feels like losing someone over and over within the same hour. But to the trained eye, this is not a malfunction. It is a system winding down. The brain's respiratory center is losing its grip. Rhythms we once took for granted begin to unravel. From the outside, these physical changes can seem disturbing, even cruel. But in truth, they are acts of mercy. The body is shielding the consciousness from pain, redirecting its final energies to keep the light on just a little longer. This isn't chaos. It's deeply wise. The Stoics, who spent their lives preparing for death, would have seen this as nature's final lesson in priority. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe how transient and trivial is all mortal life. Yesterday a drop of semen, tomorrow a handful of ashes or bones. And yet, even within that fleeting journey, there is profound beauty, especially in its ending." For many older people, these changes can feel humiliating. Their bodies, once symbols of strength and independence, seem to betray them. But it's not betrayal, it's biology. Understanding this helps replace fear with reverence. The real tragedy isn't in what's happening. It's in how often we misinterpret it. We beg, we hope, we pray for reversals. But the body tells the truth, and it's saying it's time. If we listen, if we honor what it's showing us, we can respond not with panic, but with presence. So if you or someone you love has noticed these unmistakable signs, cold hands, marbled skin, pale nails, uneven breathing, know that it may be the body's final signal, that the journey is nearly over. But don't look away. Don't fear it. This too is part of the design. And there is one final sign still ahead, perhaps the most sacred of them all. Before we go there, be sure to subscribe and stay with me, because understanding these signs isn't just about dying. It's about honoring life in its rawest, most honest form. If you know someone who's facing this, send them this video. It might change their life. Sign 5. The body's final communications. Did you know that hearing is often the last sense to fade before we die? Even when the eyes close for the final time, when hands lose their strength and stop grasping, the ears, those patient, quiet listeners, still capture whispers. They hold on to final words like lifelines, clutching meaning in moments when everything else begins to fade. And perhaps just perhaps, those words matter most of all. This fifth and final sign that death is near isn't one you can find on a chart or confirm with a test. It is something more mysterious, something felt rather than measured. It is a shift in atmosphere, a weight in the air. It's not hidden. In fact, it's right in front of us. But it's so tender, so personal, that many miss it entirely. There may be a scent in the room, sharp and metallic, chemical, almost sterile. Not the odor of decay, but of transition. This is the body speaking a final language. The liver and kidneys, faithful servants for decades, begin stepping back. They no longer filter, and in their quiet exit, the body exhales through scent. Then comes the breath, no longer steady or predictable, but a rattle, not unlike an old window trembling in the wind. This is what medicine clinically calls the death rattle. For those watching, it is haunting, but for the person experiencing it, it is painless. The body is simply releasing. It's not resisting anymore, it's resting. You might see hands reaching upward, or fingers tugging gently at bed linens. These movements, often dismissed as random or involuntary, are not without meaning. They are echoes of diminishing oxygen, yes, but maybe also of something deeper. Maybe those hands are reaching for something only they can see. This coordination, this sequence of shutting down, is astonishing, like stage lights dimming one by one. In a world that races forward at the speed of a heartbeat, few pause long enough to contemplate the quiet truth that shadows us all. That death is not a stranger, not a punishment, and certainly not an interruption. It is the most ancient of certainties, and paradoxically, the most silenced. But in the house of Stoicism, death is not feared. It is welcomed, studied, and even befriended, not with despair, but with reverence. Across these 6 reflections, we have explored the signs that life, like a flickering flame, begins to wane, gently, quietly, sometimes unnoticed. We began with sleep, that most innocent of human needs, a shifting pattern, a restless night, a soul stretching its legs before a final journey. In the stillness of night, the body whispers what the mind refuses to hear. That change is coming, and with it, a chance for one last reflection, one last breath steeped in awareness. From there, we moved into the mystery of the body's slow unraveling, weight loss without trying, appetite disappearing like morning mist. In our society, thinness is celebrated, but the Stoic sees deeper. This is not a transformation of vanity, but a transformation of essence. The body relinquishes its earthly anchors, lightening the load for the spirit to rise. It is not tragedy, it is design. And then came the retreat of the mind, the psychological withdrawal. Not confusion, not defeat, but surrender. A deliberate detachment, bills left unpaid, conversations left unfinished, plans discarded. The Stoics taught that the wise person lives each day as if it were their last. What we call apathy may be wisdom in its purest form. The letting go is not giving up. It is giving in to nature, to the rhythm of life's final verse. Physically, too, the body shows us the roadmap. Circulation falters, breath becomes erratic, skin tells stories of internal shifts. The hands grow cold, mottled with the signature of farewell, and yet none of this is failure. It is choreography. The body, in its last grand performance, orchestrates a slow, merciful exit, not chaos, not betrayal, but a return. And finally, the soul speaks through whispers and gestures, through the soft gasp of the final breath, through the eerie precision of timing, the birthday held onto, the child waited for. Hearing persists. Words matter. A hand held means the world, because even as everything else fades, what remains is connection, the most human of all expressions. So what does all of this mean for the living? It means we are not here to escape death. We are here to meet it like an old friend, eyes open, heart ready. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. And so we are invited to live in full awareness, to let go of trivial annoyances, to hold tighter the hands we still can, to forgive, to speak, to rest, to stop scrolling and start feeling. Death is not a villain lurking in the shadows. It is the mirror that makes life visible. These signs, sleep disruption, sudden weight loss, psychological retreat, circulatory changes, and final communications, are not curses. They are poetry. They are nature's way of preparing both the traveler and those they leave behind. The Stoic does not beg for more time. They use the time they have with precision and love. And when their moment arrives, they do not cling, they release. In this, we find not just peace, but purpose, to be present, to be kind, to be clear, to prepare. So if you made it this far, take this moment, not in fear, but in strength. Ask yourself, have I said what I need to say? Have I lived the way I want to be remembered? Have I made peace with the inevitable? Because the truth is this, none of us know when the call will come, but every one of us has the power to choose how we live until it does. Let this be your invitation to live vividly, to love ferociously, to forgive quickly, to rest deeply, to carry the Stoic torch not in solemn silence, but in glowing resilience. And when your own time comes, may you go not in panic, but in peace, not in confusion, but in clarity, not in regret, but in readiness. That is what it means to die well. And more importantly, that is what it means to live well. Stay awake, stay brave, stay present. And if this reflection has moved something within you, consider subscribing and sharing this message, not for vanity, but because someone, somewhere, might need to hear it right now. Until next time, live with intention, die with dignity, and walk your days with the strength of a Stoic. If this message moved you, don't click away and forget it. Subscribe, stay with us, because this channel isn't just about endings. It's about living fully, eyes open, heart ready, and when the time comes, soul prepared.